Hey guys, how are you? Welcome to another Tarot Tuesday. I'm Mahogany Fleming, singer, songwriter, and living inspiration to artists of all kinds. I am here for you. So, I want to apologize for the video of last week going up so late on the Magician. Gosh, I don't know what is going on. Well, if you guys are into astrology, hopefully you are. I was really excited to get the video up. Like, I was pumped, like focused, driven to get the video done. And then the day that Mars goes retrograde is the day that the video is supposed to be posted. And of course, the video never went up. If you guys know anything about Mars, Mars is all about action, all about taking action, all about taking the initiative, all about getting shit done. And when a planet goes retrograde, it's not doing that. It's taking a step back. It's not in action, not in its natural state. And so I just find it very ironic that that entire week, my video, when I say refused, I had to get an entire new camera because the camera was not working, and it had I took it to the shop and they couldn't even figure out why it wasn't working. I said, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to get a whole new one. That's how excited I am and how passionate I am about this. Like, I don't care. I have a message that I want to get out and I want people to hear it. It's not for everyone, but I believe that there are some people who want more and are seeking more, and I am here for you, and nothing, not even the planet, is gonna stop me. So today we are here to talk about number 2, the second card in the major arcana, and that is the High Priestess. The first card is the Magician. Actually, if you get this deck, he's on the front cover. I don't know if you can see that. That's the Magician. He represents the number 1 in numerology, and the High Priestess represents the number 2 in numerology. And we're going to take a second and look at the card. You can hit pause if you like. That's the High Priestess. I love each one of these cards. I just love the details and how everything on the card has a purpose. And even some things I'm still trying to learn. You see the moon at her feet. You see 2 pillars next to her. And you also see pomegranates. Those are pomegranates around her. So the 2 pillars next to her, that's so weird. My fingers just started cracking. The 2 pillars next to her, the B and the J. First of all, let's talk about how one is in black and one is in white. We'll get there. Just notice, just pay attention to these things. We're going to talk about all of it. So the B and the J. The B stands for Boaz, and the J stands for Jachin. Jachin, Jachin. And these are King Solomon's pillars. The B stands for in his strength, and the J stands for he will establish. You see around her, she has the pomegranates. Pomegranates, especially in the Bible, they represent the fruitfulness of wisdom. If you look at the bottom of her skirt, someone I was watching, I don't remember who it was. Oh, I wish I remembered. They noticed something very, like, I'm telling you guys, the little detail in these images. But she talked about how the bottom of her skirt is ruffled, and that represents the turbulence that you experience and you feel sometimes when all you have to go off of is your intuition. When all you have to go off of is that still small voice and you don't have anything else. And the turbulence you feel when you go against that intuition. So that's this card, this yummy card. So the High Priestess represents the ultimate feminine. In this world that we live in, everything that has consciousness has a feminine and has a masculine. Nothing on this earth exists without a feminine and a masculine. And so when you see certain people and they're off balance, and you can see the off balance, it's because they're not in tune with one of the two, or they're not in tune with some other aspect of themselves. But usually you can generalize it and make it simple by saying they're not in touch with one of the two. So everything has a feminine and masculine. Everything has a good and bad. Everything has a black and white. Everything has a negative and positive. Everything has a plus and a minus. Everything has the night and day. So the high priestess represents the moon, and the sun is represented by the masculine. She's represented by the feminine. She is the ultimate feminine. She is the spiritual mother, not the physical mother, but the spiritual mother, the one who is guiding you with those still small voices that you hear. That is her. For me, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you know that often, not all the time, but often I talk about the mother God. And that's because for so long in my life, in my journey, most of you all know I grew up Christian, and we were always told that God was a man. Let's just look at this logically. Christianity is the only major religion around the world, one of the only major religions around the world, because there are a lot, where there's not a feminine and a masculine. Pretty much every other religion in this world has a feminine and a masculine deity. Jesus Christ did not have a feminine deity. He did, but it wasn't something well known. Mary Magdalene was supposed to be his feminine deity. They were supposed to be the yin and yang, but she was kind of taken out. And for hundreds of years, we believed she was a whore. And then we live nowadays and we notice and we're coming to the realization that she's not a whore. She was a very smart, rich woman who knew a lot, and a lot would argue that she was his confidant. She was his sponsor. I can go on for days about Mary Magdalene because I feel a deep connection to her and her story, the little bit of her story that we know. I've done a lot of research on her. The tarot cards pretty much came from her. The Christian allegory for this card is actually Mary Magdalene when she went to go see Jesus in his tomb. This card represents intuition. She was intuitively led to go check on Jesus Christ. If she was to be led by the dominant world that we live around, which is everything is pretty much very physical, she will be looked at as crazy, and she probably was. Think about like what happens when you go see your loved one. Chances are it's very hurtful, and sometimes a lot of people, I know for myself, like I don't want to immediately go to their gravesite. Like it hurts to even think about going. It takes me some time. She went there 3 days after he died, and that's not always very easy, but she was intuitively led to go, and many would argue that people probably thought she was crazy, but she was led there. Her intuition guided her there, and when she followed her intuition and she followed that still small voice, what did she find? She found that the tomb was empty, and that is what the fruitfulness of following your intuition does for you. A lot of times is you find out that the intuition was guiding you to your hopes and dreams. Your intuition was guiding you to your savior or to save you. Intuition always comes to you in ways that you understand. It never comes to you in some foreign language that you don't understand, because your angels know you, and your angels pretty much guide your intuition. Like they're the ones that send you those still small voices. That's your angels doing. So they're not going to come to you, using animals as a metaphor if you don't really resonate with animals. They're going to use stories, tarot cards for me, and animals and nature to speak to you in whatever way that your children. You don't know how many messages I've gotten from my son, and I'm like, how did you know that? Or what made you say that? well, what made you tell me you love me out of like the blue? Intuition is only able to function at its best when the cognitive mind is willing to stay in its place. Not necessarily step back and not exist, because you don't want that either. You want to stay in balance. That's what this world is all about. We don't want to be led so much by our intuition that we're living in a reality that doesn't exist. Or we don't also want to be living so much in this physical world where our intuition has no place in our minds, and we're clouded by all of this judgment and intellect and books that we're reading and articles that we're reading. We're clouded with fear, and our intuition can't guide us if we're dominated by fear. So if you look at go back to the magician. If you haven't watched the video on the magician, definitely do that. But I didn't get to talk about how the magician represents the number 1. And I love, when I was studying numerology, how they actually use like the physical numbers to portray the message as well. So the number 1, if you look at the number 1 and you put a lot of pressure on it, what happens? It breaks, it cracks, it's done. You put a lot of pressure on the number 2, it just folds and it bends, but it can pop right back up. When we are in a place in our lives where we don't really know why we're feeling what we're feeling, we don't really know what's going on, we just feel a certain way, a lot of times we can crack under pressure. But when we allow that emotion to find a place with our intuition, we're able to bend and we're able to be flexible. And when we move on further to the number 3, which is the Empress, we can actually create something beautiful. You see, the High Priestess is not yet in the physical, it's the intuition. And the Magician clearly is not yet in the physical. It's not even an idea, it's a dream, it's something that we don't know. It's just an element that we have to put together with another element to create one thing. So I like to use the analogy of the sperm and the egg and the baby or the mother. So you can't have one without the other to create anything. And in order for us to create something, whether it's music, whether it's a song, whether it's a dance, you have to have the emotion that comes from nowhere, the inspiration that comes from nowhere, and you also have to have the direction. And the High Priestess also represents the fork in the road. You can go in 2 different directions. You can go good or bad. You can go right or left. Like, you could go any direction, but that's up to you. Duality. You have the opportunity to go in any direction you choose to go. So the sperm could exist without the egg, but if it wants to create something, they have to come together. And so the sperm would represent the Magician, and the egg would represent the High Priestess. And when you put them together, they create the daughter, which is actually my soul destiny card, the Empress. They create the daughter, the mother. They create, when they come together, the mother can then birth the creation. And that's what the Empress is all about. So we'll talk all about that, but I love bringing them all 3 together because they all 3 of them together create something amazing. So I'm really excited to introduce the Empress as well. So on the emotional level of this card, the High Priestess is basically telling you to let go. Let go of what your mind is telling you to do. Let go of what makes sense to you. A lot of times we ask ourselves questions and we don't know the answers. A lot of times we want things and we ask God for things or the divine for things, and a lot of times we block our own blessings because we're trying to figure out the how. But all we need to do is ask for what it is that we want and let the universe take care of everything else. Let go of past agreements that we've made. That's what this card is about. Letting go of those agreements. If you ever read the book, The 4 Agreements, you totally can understand what I'm saying. But a lot of times as children, we make agreements in our minds about things that sometimes aren't even true, or they are true, but they were true for us at a point in time in our life. But when we let go of those agreements, those mental agreements, those emotional agreements, we a lot of times can flourish and become something even greater, even smarter, even happier. We look at the different cards. I'm going to just like briefly go through each one just so you can kind of see how the different elements, I like to say elements, some people like to say suits, but the different elements are related to the High Priestess. So the Magician is going to represent the aces, and all of the aces are somewhat in some way, shape, or form going to relate to the Magician. And so the High Priestess card has all of the twos, the Two of Cups, the Two of Swords, the Two of Pentacles, and the Two of Wands. And so all of these cards in one way, shape, or form will be represented by the High Priestess in some way. So we'll just skim through them, give you some good ideas. Maybe you can write a song based off of these cards. So this is the Two of Cups. Represents love. And it doesn't always necessarily mean love in a relationship. Even though this is a man and a woman coming together, they have the option to go in any direction. They could be coming together and realizing whatever's in this cup is not going to mix, so we're not even going to make this happen. But that is what this card is all about. The duality, the option for love to work or the option for love not to work, or the possibility that love does not work. But the beauty in it is that they are standing here together and they have that option and they have that choice. This is the Two of Swords. And as you see, there's a woman standing here underneath the moon. Her eyes are closed. A lot of times we make a lot of decisions physically because of what we see. So her eyes are closed and she's being guided by the moon. The moon represents intuition. She's holding two swords in her hand. And if you remember, the swords represent intellect. The swords represent power. The swords represent knowledge, higher learning. So she possibly could be trying to debate on what side she stands on in power. She could be deciding what side of the political party does she belong on. What's the best way for her to communicate her feelings? This could go in a lot of different directions. But I like this card because she's holding, her grip is on both swords equally. She could choose either or. She could go in any direction. This could be someone trying to decide what school they want to go to. This is the Two of Pentacles, Two of Coins, Two of Earth. This is the person juggling two coins in his hand with the infinity symbol, continuously trying to juggle two very tangible physical things in their life. It could be finances and family matters. It could be trying to figure out if it's smart to take your car to work or walk to work. It's tangible stuff. Your health and your love life, your health and your finances. It's juggling two physical things in your life and being quick on your feet. You see how one foot is up in the air and one foot is down. You have to be quick. You have to be quicker than that. You have to be quick on your feet. You have to be able to juggle and have balance. I get this card quite often. I think that's why I love it. I'm so familiar with it. This man is looking out at the world that he lives in and looking at a world that he has in his hand. And he has the option to go out into the world, the physical world, or stay with the world that he's created in his hand. And if you look back on the Magician card, the world that he created in his hand must have been used by one of the four elements from scratch. And now he's looking and he's debating on if he wants to go out into this world or does he want to stay where he is. He very well could stay right there with the world that he's created in his hand, or he could go out and see an entirely different world. He has the option. Nothing is stopping him from going. And a lot of times when I see this card, I think the reason why I get it so much is because I constantly feel like I'm in limbo with, should I go out? Should I go do it? Or should I just stay here in this world that I've created? And remember that the wands represent new life. So, this new world that he's going out for could have an entirely new life for him. It could be completely new. It could be something great. It could be something bad. But the fact that he has the option, he's going to have to use his intuition to make the final decision. This card is about knowing that everything that you need is already inside of you. It's already there. I remember when I was starting this journey, I thought I had to read every book. I thought I had to watch every YouTube video. I thought that I had to do research to really know what I was talking about. And while it did help, while it did get me far, I'm still learning a lot. But I'm learning that those books could only get me so far. Those books were great, but everything that I needed to know was already inside of me. And anything from the outside world was only a confirmation. But I didn't need anything because I am my own universe. And anything that I need is already provided for me, especially in the spiritual. All I have to do is bring it in the physical, and that's the easy part. Reversed, this card could have a lot of different meanings, and I'm sorry I didn't get to talk about the reversals in The Magician, but if you get the card in reverse, which is pretty cool, and you can get really creative with your songwriting if you pull this card reverse, but it just represents going against your intuition, going in the wrong direction. You have to get still. And it goes back to what we talked about the last time. You have to be willing to meditate. And meditating can look a lot of different ways. Right? The physical aspect of this card is the right brain system. That's because on the right brain, that's where we create. That is how we create. It's where our artistic talents reside. I had to go grab my book because I wanted to show you all this too. So one way that you can tap into the energy of this card and tap into your intuition ultimately is by doing things that you like to do. Obviously, writing music, writing songs, getting out in nature, drawing and coloring. A lot of times it's really hard for me to just sit there and meditate. I do that. Like, it's sometimes I have to do it. Sometimes I have to just center myself, but sometimes I like to color. I'm going to show you all this book. My friends know what this book is because they see me using it all the time. This is my book, and this is actually a tarot coloring book. And I'm going to show you the High Priestess page because I did do that page because it's the second page in the book. Isn't she beautiful? So this is how I started. Here's the Magician. So when I funny story about this. When I started this book, I haven't done everything. It's 78 pages, 78 tarot cards. So when I started this, I was like, just the controlling part of me wanted to make sure that everything was the right color. Not even knowingly, like it was like, okay, I'm gonna do this color, I'm gonna do this. The leaves are supposed to be green, roses are supposed to be red. Everything was intentional. And then something said, that's nice, but I want you to get creative. So I want you to just close your eyes and pick a color. And so the first 2 pages is what I did consciously. And then I had fun with it, and I just started randomly picking pages. And I mean, I feel like I made some beautiful stuff. Like, I'm gonna show you. Here's the World card. We'll talk about the World card. I'll show you the Lovers card. Lovers card in the Sun is one of my favorites too. It's not quite finished yet. Oh, the Temperance. Oh, isn't she beautiful? Here it is. Oh, this is one of my favorites. So, if you've gotten anything out of this, I hope that you just are getting a better understanding of how to tap into the deeper inner wisdom And you learn to connect with you. Ultimately, that's what the purpose of these cards are for, is to tap into you. Get those questions answered. You can literally, I'm telling you all, and I said this in the last one, but like, there are questions that I have. Actually, I'll give you an example. This morning, I drew some cards, and I actually put that up on my my Facebook page. I am Mahogany 9, the number 9 for completion. And I talked about how just this morning, actually, I was sitting down and I was just praying, and I'm like, God, like, sometimes it's really hard for me to really get into that space and write and create or do things that I know that I should do, and I'm trying to figure out where the blockage is coming from. And sometimes the cognitive mind is like, you're not going to get an answer. If you do, it's going to take a while. That's my thing. Like, I don't like waiting for stuff. I'm very impatient. And so sometimes I won't even do a task because I know it's going to take forever and I don't want to wait. So I don't wait. I don't do it. And so I'm like, I'm not going to get an answer, but I would like to know, like, what is going on? Like, why can't I? I drew the 8 of Cups, and the 8 of Cups represents, it's a man, and he's walking away from these cups. And if you know what the cups represent, it represents love lost in this case, because he's walking away from all of these cups, and they're all stacked together. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. And he just showed me how it's time for me to walk away from my past. And instantly I started to be consumed by these memories of me as a child being told that I was stupid, that I wasn't smart enough. And if you don't learn to walk away from your past, it will consume you. And I used the analogy of pulling weeds. I felt like at that moment I was pulling weeds from my life, agreements that I have made in my childhood that I didn't even realize I had made, that caused me to not even want to try. And it was so freeing and liberating, because clearly I could not do something like this. I have done so much research on my own. I have read so many books in this past 2-3 years. There's no way, if I wasn't smart, I would be able to do this. And when I say smart, if I wasn't able to retain information and regurgitate it in the way that people can actually use it and use it in a practical way to create, I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't smart. And I know that now. But sometimes it's just funny how you have to be told these things and be reminded of these things. Here it is right here. It's a man. I'm telling you, like, these cards, they just talk to you, like, and it could have a completely different meaning to someone else. But to me, when I see this, I see a man with 8 cups and walking away from them, completely walking away, going on a completely different journey. And that is so beautiful to me, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now in my life. I am going on a completely different journey, walking away from my hurts, my shame, things in my life that I never thought I could heal from. I'm walking away from it. I'm pulling the weeds out of my life, never to look back again. So I encourage you all to tap into your intuition. Tap into your intuition. Use whatever method you need. I use the cards, and a lot of other methods, a lot of prayer, a lot of meditating. I actually have a pendulum that I like to use as well, and I'll talk about that one day too. I'll probably do a video about that. But use your intuition. It is one of the greatest gifts that the Mother God wants you to have. She's willing, and she has open, wide arms, willing to hold you. She's not going to put the roadblock physically in front of you. Sometimes she will. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes she will send those angels down to save you. But 9 times out of 10, they put you on this earth for free will. They're not going to interfere with your free will, but they will be there to heal. just created something there. They're not going to interfere with what you decide to do, but they will be there to help you pull the weeds after you've created them. So that's the message that I got from one card. And I can't wait to write a song about that alone. Just walking away from hurt, walking away from pain, walking away from insecurities that weren't mine to hold. So I really hope that this helped you all as much as it has helped me, still helping me. If you all have any questions, please email me. If there's something that you want me to specifically dive deeper into, email me. And like, share, subscribe for more amazing videos to come. Have a wonderful day. And I will see you all next week for another Tarot Tuesday. Bye-bye.